And good evening. It is Tuesday, January 6th, 2015, first show of the new year. This is the Refinery. It's the place where grassroots organizations come together to explore the best way to make conservative messaging work. We're live every Tuesday, 8:30 Central, or 8:45, whichever happens, at therefineryshow.com. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, we would really appreciate that, and you can watch this video at your leisure. We also have a podcast that's available at Vigilant Liberty US, vigilantliberty.us. Is that right, guys? Yes? No, maybe? And we're also on iTunes, Stitcher, or TuneIn. All the links are on the website, therefineryshow.com. I am Leslie P. I'm with the Conservative Union. We've got three folks here from Free Radical Network, Fishy and JD, our regulars, and we have a newbie, Stefan Glaug. Glaug, is that right? Yes?
Yes.
And he's from North Carolina, and we just got in Cori and Andy from the Party of Choice. They're here. They're getting their act together. They'll be along shortly.
It's those Coloradans. They're on that
Colorado.
mountain time.
You betcha. You betcha. You betcha. Where am I from? God, jeez.
Alaska, apparently.
Alaska, apparently. The big news, I guess the big thing for today is this is our 1-year anniversary. It was just about a year ago. Actually, it was exactly a year ago that we started getting together, these three groups, the Conservative Union, Free Radical Network, and the Party of Choice, to talk amongst ourselves about messaging and how to make the conservative case a little bit more elegantly, more successfully. And we did that in a private message format for quite a while, and then we decided, oh heck, why not just broadcast it live, see if it benefits anybody else, and we did that. And this is the 30th show that we're making live and available to the masses on YouTube. And big news, super big news, we got our YouTube channel hooked up with an AdSense account, and we now have an estimated income rolling in from these YouTube videos and the advertising of 4 cents. So we are 40% of the way towards making 1 red dime on this production. We are getting so rich. The money is rolling in. Now, of course, I don't think YouTube sends you a check until your balance is over $100. So sometime in the year 2121, we'll be getting a check.
That's if we stay diligent and we manage to tag all of our videos right and all of that stuff. We'll be there. We might actually get to 200 subscribers by the year 2121. Yeah, we'll be good.
We aren't anything at all like the SEO spammer type people that just go out for subscribers and all that kind of stuff. But that's okay. So happy anniversary to us. Happy anniversary, everybody. This has been a good year. And
yeah.
Guess what? Our efforts at trying to figure out a better way to put the conservative message together, thanks to us, the Republicans now have the biggest lead in state houses and the House of Representatives and the Senate that we've had in over a century. So you're welcome, America.
Yeah, absolutely. That had a lot to do with us. Granted, that when we started this whole project, it was actually an effort to sort of better know our Congress people and senators, not even Congress people and senators, but the people who are running for Congress and Senate. Mm-hmm. And we actually did manage to interview a couple of people who were running in primaries here in the state of New Jersey for Senate, Brian Goldberg and Rich Pizzullo. Thank them very much for still having pretty high numbers on their videos. And then we eventually interviewed Jeff Bell, who ran for Senate. And that was pretty cool, and that is still our #1 most seen video, like 400 views or something. That's crazy.
And those were some great interviews. They really were.
Well, and the cool thing about it was that the questions for those interviews came from here. We focus grouped them. We talked about what it is, what was really important for people to know. What wasn't really asked as much.
Right, the non-standard types of things that would really help you in a primary race. What are the things that conservatives need to know to pick the best conservative candidate, and what's going to help help us know which one is most likely to win in November, and those kinds of things. We really got some questions that these guys are not used to being asked, and I think that was a good thing. And I'd like to do more of that next go round, because the primaries really are far more important, I think, to pushing the GOP in the direction we want. If we want to reform the GOP, we got to do it at the primaries,
Yes,
not in November.
I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about that later on in the show. But as a part of the birthday celebration, before we get into heady politics that happened today, I do want to thank Tim, who he shared our video from Sunday, or from Monday. I'm sorry, from Monday, our clip from Monday from last week's show, and just wrote up a beautiful just praise for the show. It was really, really cool, and it was so awesome that Fishy shared a picture of the comment on our Facebook page, on the Free Radical Network Facebook page, and it got shared, Fishy.
It did. One of the good friends that we have, JD and I specifically argue politics. Yeah.
Good friend.
Yeah. We argue politics with all the time. He is a history professor, history teacher, and is always looking for a good fight, a good debate. He shared it, and it was just so stunning. First of all, that this dyed-in-the-wool, die-hard liberal thought enough of the work that we do, the things that we are about at this show, to share that, and with all of his liberal friends, to share the comment that was made by Tim, which is just, again, a phenomenal compliment. He's so.
Do you have it
so
in front of you? Read it out. Come on, read Tim's word.
I'm going to read the share first. He says, our guy Bill said, "To my liberal progressive friends, you should drop in on these folks. You won't agree with them much. I don't. But you won't agree with them and won't need to punch the wall, take an antacid, or take up binge drinking as a recreational hobby to cope with the experience, as I have had to do after listening to Rush and his local cohorts for a few months. It's always good to hear from the other side. Sometimes they have a point." And then, sort of. And then he says,
sort of.
And then he says, "I hope I didn't get too gushy with the praise." So, thank you, Bill. That's a very high compliment. And then from Tim himself, which again was just so sweet, Tim Lewis, he said, "Are you sick and tired of the rage treadmill of traditional talk radio shows like Rush Limbaugh, The Blaze, and Mark Levin? Listen to the Refinery show. When traditional talk radio can't find anything really big to get angry about, they either go out and find something or dig up something old, because that's how they get listeners, and as entertainers, getting an audience, which makes their advertisements more valuable, is all they really care about. Rage really does sell." And then Tim goes on to say, "In contrast, when the people from Conservative Union, Free Radical Network, and the Party of Choice get together in the Refinery," and he says, "realistic solutions to problems from a conservative viewpoint, and what the best approach to counter the efforts of the left to control people while maintaining a positive outlook. Yes, they are seriously disturbed by the actions of the left, and yes, it does upset them when the left gets by with things through lies and deception. But they are also just as disturbed when conservatives do just as much, if not more, harm by wasting their energy raging about insignificant and sometimes even untrue things, and tearing down and destroying people that they agree with for the most part. We should be people who say, there is hope for us, and we can win. We just have to try. Listen to the Refinery show, and you will get the information and strategies you need to be effective in combating the left's control tactics." Thank you so much, Tim.
It was like the most beautiful love letter, and we didn't even pay him for it.
Because we only have the 4 cents, and it doesn't go this many ways around.
Yeah, and we have to pay for, these sets, these excellent.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough.
And you should have seen the special effects that Stefan was trying out earlier, because he's going to be.
No, don't do
it again. No, don't.
I had 64 teeth.
There was no lie, y'all. He had a special effect on the camera software, and it was like a fisheye lens thing, and it was on his teeth, and they were huge. It was pretty hilarious. It was funny, but we made him turn it off first.
I had to turn it off.
Yeah. So, thanks so much to Tim for what he said. We really appreciate that, and I think it's really cool that somewhere out there in liberal land, there's somebody who's heard of the refinery. I think that's pretty cool too. But it's over on some social network I've never. It starts with an F. I don't really pay any attention to.
Oh my goodness, Google plus snob at just why you gotta be like that?
I don't know. I logged into Facebook earlier today. I was all kinds of confused and befuddled. I didn't really know what was going on, so I ran away.
Well, I wouldn't blame you for running away today. There's.
Yeah. Okay. So now it's time to talk. What happened today? So today was the first day of the 114th Congress. Yay! So it is official today. We are the masters of the universe. Because the Senate opened today too, right? Or was it just the House?
Nope, the Senate too.
Senate too. So 114th Congress is in session, and the Republicans are in control of both houses, and it's pretty freaking awesome. And we've got a bigger lead than we've had in 100 years or something. I mean, I don't really pay that much attention to all the stats of this stuff, but I see comments back and forth that in the election the Democrats are defeated to an extent they haven't been since the turn of the last century or something ridiculous. It's a pretty major majority that we have at this point, and so lest we feel good about ourselves, the one thing that what we have to do as Republicans, instead of just having a good time and having a party on the opening day of Kick Butt Congress 114, we had to have the election for the Speaker of the House, and that had to become an opportunity for us to decide to hate each other. In other words, it was an opportunity for John Boehner to get reelected Speaker of the House, which was always going to happen because there wasn't, as Felicia said in her brilliant article today, there wasn't a plan for victory for anyone else. There was a plan. John Boehner had a plan for how he was going to win and be reelected Speaker of the House. Nobody else had a plan for how they were going to defeat the incumbent, the very powerful, very experienced, very shrewd incumbent, John Boehner. There wasn't one guy who had a big overarching, definitely going to be successful plan, or even a justification for his victory or his being able to be the Speaker of the House. And so when there isn't a plan for victory or a reason for victory, there isn't victory. John Boehner was always going to win re-election, and he did, and there are an awful lot of people today who are expressing their anger and expressing their disappointment, and it's kind of difficult to just look past it because I want to argue with them. But by the same token, I understand their disappointment and I understand their frustration because John Boehner is not the world's greatest Speaker of the House.
He's not even in the top 50. He's bad. Not a great Speaker of the House. We don't like John Boehner.
What I really would love to have is the GOP equivalent of a Nancy Pelosi. I don't like Nancy Pelosi, but she absolutely had an agenda, and she drove forward through every obstacle she could find, and she got her agenda passed, and nobody was allowed to even criticize her. And, well, people criticized her, but nobody was given any credibility because she believes in her agenda, and she's right, and anybody who disagrees with her is wrong or stupid or to be pitied, and she just absolutely plowed forward, and all of the Democrats absolutely voted with her 100%. She brooked no dissent, and there was none. I would love to have somebody even halfway that strong of a leader as our GOP Speaker of the House.
But Leslie,
We don't have that.
No, I don't want her. But look, number one, Democrats don't divide. Okay, because they are united around the desire to control fellow Americans. That's a very strong drive, and they will set aside differences to do anything it takes to control fellow Americans. They will. Okay, so number one, she's leading the side that doesn't divide. Number two, it's real easy to get things you want when you have Obama and Reid. Okay, John Boehner really was running 1/2 of 1/3. You know, I mean, look, I think people were expecting too much out of Boehner. On the other hand, don't get me wrong, I actually wanted the other guy. I wanted Gomer, okay, today. But I don't think it's the end of the world. I think a great message has been sent. 25 votes against. That's the most in nearly 100 years. I think if people, look, Boehner isn't going to want to go through this in every 2 years. If people think Boehner is going to be the same pushover he's been for the last few years, they are going to be very, very surprised. I think he's going to pick apart Obamacare. I really do. I think he's going to pick it apart. I think he is going to do kind of what I'm hoping he'll do, and that is put the president in the position of wielding a very unpopular veto pen and using that to campaign for 2016 for the right. I really, you know, I think that the rebellion against Boehner has succeeded. I think it's going to bring I think it's going to bear great fruit. But by no means
I really hope you're right.
Yeah, by no means am I impressed, though, by Pelosi, by somebody who can rally a team that never divides and get things done with no opposition.
Right.
Well, yeah, true.
And that's sort of another thing to consider. You know, we're talking about how much of a failure John Boehner has been and how you know awful he is as a speaker. When you're talking about a guy who is disliked apparently as much as he is, and an opposition couldn't organize itself good enough to beat somebody who is clearly not a good Speaker of the House,
Well, and
how are you supposed to inspire any confidence in your ability to lead if you can't even do that?
Let's go back a couple of episodes of the Refinery when we were also talking about the Keynesian model being crushed. The very fact that we had sequester handled the way it was, and the House was the only brakes on the Obama administration or anything else, and the Senate wouldn't pass anything that the House had out there. It's amazing what the House has done. Even as bad as you find Boehner's leadership, it's amazing what they've been able to do and hold the line on. Now, nobody got near what we wanted to. And again, we're playing with a stacked deck against us. And we all know that public relations is not the forte, not the strong suit of leadership in Congress, and it needs to become so. And they need to be better about who they send out to do what messaging. And we've all talked about that. But given where we are, you definitely have to say that Boehner has managed to hold the ground and fire back at the president in some ways. It's not been a complete surrender, a complete give up at all. I don't think it's fair to say that at all.
No, and remember how much legislation the House presented to the Senate where it was immediately stopped in its tracks by Harry Reid. I mean, and
Boehner's already said he's going to be reintroducing all of that stuff. Boehner's not as bad as the rap that he gets. He's not as good as he thinks he is, but he's somewhere in the middle. Wow. Sort of like pretty much everything is.
You know, I just wish that people on our side, look, don't divide. Don't decide to stay home. And here's why I say this. We just got to 54 seats in the Senate. Folks, I've already taken a look at vulnerable seats in 2016 and 2018. I wrote an article on this a couple weeks ago. I expect us to pick up 4 seats even if we don't handle things that well. If we simply unite on our side, in 2018 we're going to hit 60 seats. If we simply unite, it's there for the taking. All we have to do is unite. That's if we don't even like each other.
Yeah, and the thing that's driving me nuts is everybody says, I'm going to leave, I'm going to stay home, and then that leaves those of us who are left to do even more work.
Was it 300 in which the line is hold while they're getting attacked?
It's one of the movies where they say that.
I mean, you know, it keeps playing in my head that we have to hold together.
Well, and also this has been something we were just talking about this before the show, but this is something that's been going on for a very long time. You know, we've talked in the past about how the Tea Party movement is very new. It's only been since 2009, and look at all that they've accomplished in that time. But it's like we just expect instant gratification. Yeah, we won an election, and now we expect them to do everything that we want. It's not going to happen that way for 2 reasons. First of all, it's a process. You have to take things back one step at a time, even though we would prefer to just leap forward. And secondly, the general population is not on board with most of what we believe, and until we change their opinions on things, change their hearts and minds, we're not going to be able to really change Congress or the government or anything.
And we're not enjoying the time doing it. Take each thing piece by piece, give the public time to understand each thing that we advance and win. Don't try to flood it with a fire hose. The public isn't going to absorb that in. We don't have the media, academia, and entertainment industry broadcasting it for us. We have to do it piece by piece, but if we do, it's going to work.
I have a sports analogy. Oh gosh, I'm really sick. This is like several weeks in a row. But just because you lose the first quarter of the first game does not mean the season's over. Okay?
This isn't even the first quarter of the first game. This is the first 2 minutes. They had a good kickoff. That's all this is. I mean,
we need to pay attention to what uniform people are wearing, and be aware of who is on our team and who's on the other team.
And who could run in the right direction.
Oh my God, yes. There's so many such obvious sports analogies that even Felicia and I can make the sports analogies. And we're not sports people.
Shooting. Okay, never mind. Hey, JD, at what point in the season did you know the Jets were finished? Wasn't it in the first quarter? I mean, there is some legitimacy to hope. Okay?
No, it wasn't.
But do you walk off the field? Do you leave the game as a player?
The players did, apparently.
Okay, bad example.
No, they didn't. Stop it. Stop challenging the honor of my sports team. That's unfair, and it's taking the show off topic. We will talk about this later, Andy. We will talk about this later. But one thing that I will say is that today, all day today, during this Boehner apocalypse, because clearly, this is an event that's signaling the end times. I cannot believe just how messed up things have gotten. I mean, we talked about it when Cromnibus passed, and there was a small number of people, and including some media sources on the right that were talking about, oh, we have to primary Trey Gowdy. Well, they're back, and they're doing this primary Trey Gowdy thing, but it's not just Trey Gowdy.
Well, Trey Gowdy didn't even have the courage to vote today. He didn't even show up to vote.
Yes.
I mean, gosh.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It was a weather thing. He couldn't get a plane.
Yeah, it was a weather-related event.
He said publicly he was going to vote for Boehner anyway. So.
Yeah. Yeah, what a coward to say that he to not show up and then say who he would vote for. But no, he's a rhino because he said that he would have voted for Boehner. And you know who else is a rhino? Mia Love is a rhino. Mia Love is a rhino and should be primaried.
How and why? What for?
Well, she voted for Boehner. She voted for John Boehner. That was her crime. That was her sin. is that she voted for John Boehner. You know
I
who
gotta
else?
say-
I also heard
ahead.
that she joined the Congressional Black Caucus today too.
Heard from Texas. Also, Rhino must be voted out. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean that he won, so many non-traditional GOP votes in Texas this past election. Throw him out. He's a bum because he voted for Boehner.
Well, and
200
clearly Culberson and McCall and oh my God, okay, Gohmert didn't, but who's the fishy? Who's our congressman who was? Oh, Ted Poe. Ted Poe voted for Boehner.
Yeah, it's
Rhino.
Yep.
no. There are
Insane.
216 votes for John Boehner, and clearly every single one of those 216 votes, they need to all be primaried. Every single one of them right now. We need to do it, and it needs to be done pronto. Look,
Guys, let me ask, can I throw a question out there?
please go.
What do you think Boehner's next step should be? I'm going to say what I think, and then I want to hear what you think. Now, I think that the wise thing to do would be, placing people in committees, is to actually put a couple people who opposed him. But on the other, because I think that a unifying step is so needed right now. On the other hand, how can you not reward those who stuck with you? If you don't reward loyalty, you won't get loyalty. So I'm a little torn. I'm honestly asking, what do you think is the best way to go, and what do we say to people in light of which ways he will go?
This is something that this is the really ugly side of politics. This is the high school politics side of things that nobody really likes. But I expect that he'll take people off of committees. I expect that he will do the the thing that we kind of all expect him to do, and not be happy about the people who opposed him. But it's really immaterial to me at this point. He's the guy who's speaker. We're not going to do anything about that. We're not going to change anything about it. The time to change it was when he was running for re-election. The time to change it was in the primary season, and that didn't happen. So if we all want to collectively pool our money and find somebody to primary John Boehner, please, let's do that. I would love that. And any other, I'm sure there are tons of those 200 some odd Congress people who voted for John Boehner. I'm sure there's a good percentage of those people that could be easily primaried, and would, if we would find some good upgrades there. I'm sure there's a bunch, but not Mia Love, and not Trey Gowdy, and not Hurd. I mean, come on. We need to have some common sense here. You don't flush an entire team because of one vote.
Well, and when I wrote my article today, it was out of the frustration of the reaction. I understand how people feel let down by some of the representatives. I don't know exactly what they expected to happen, or how, if they expected to go to a second vote, or how they expected this to work. I'm not even sure what the strategy was behind offering alternative candidates and having people vote that way. I don't know. But the things that I wanted people to walk away with in the whole process were several things. I don't know the plan to beat Boehner. We talked about there didn't appear to be a plan. Boehner and like Gingrich had done years before, worked to help get some of the people elected who just joined Congress. Those are the kind of activities that you do if you want to solidify a power base and if you want to grow your majority. You want to be in power and be the majority leader and still maintain your position as speaker and expand your base. You're going to help get more people elected. That's part of one of your jobs. So he did the work. Other people were tentative, skittish. I don't know. There was no campaign. There was nobody out getting broad support for themselves or in opposition to Boehner. But another thing was, we have so many things that are on our plates. I don't know that the election process here about Boehner is more important than the NSA, is more important than whatever foreign affairs or domestic affairs that we have to take care of, more important than immigration, more important than Obamacare, more important than in the budget fights that we're going to have. I don't know that that's more important. Now, you might say it might play into it based on who's on what committee, but that's not going to matter so much. The House is not going to have the Senate to hide behind putting whatever they want out legislatively and hoping that the Senate, or knowing that the Senate isn't going to pass it. They're not going to have that cover. But the most important part of my article was the part that you go to war with the army you have. This is the army that we have. It's not perfect. It's not even great in some places, but these are the people that we have to work with. So here's what I wrote. I don't look at the situation merely through the prism of the way I wish things would be. I studied Alinsky. I try to deal with the world as it is, not as I wish it to be. That means that whatever spineless losers, other people's characteristics, not necessarily mine, that I have to work with, that is the team I'm going to have to use at any given time to get what I want. I will ride any horse that's put in front of me if it gets me where I want to go. Again, you can argue whether that will or not, but this is the option that I have right now. I may not get to choose the horse, but it's the rider who steers it. It's my job to be a good rider, focusing on how to get the best performance out of this horse. And that's where we've fallen down, I think. We've not done the job of going along and communicating to them, but also helping lay the groundwork, as Andy's been saying for weeks now, lay the groundwork, do the work now to convince people so that the actions that they take have popular support.
Well, and I think you can look at 2 years ago, Raul Labrador contested Boehner for the speakership, and that was a bit of a longer contest because he answered the first question, who do you want? If you don't want Boehner, you have to answer 3 questions. 1, who do you want instead? It was Raul Labrador. What's the case for him being the leader? And Raul spent a few days making that case to the public, and most importantly, to the other members of the House. And 3, do you have a plan to win? I don't know that Raul had a plan to win at that point, and he didn't get all that many votes. This time, there were far more votes against Boehner than there have been on any speakership elections in a really long time. So Boehner got a very strong message. There was no solid opposition. There was just a sense that Boehner hasn't done what we want him to do. And that's the kind of thing that can be motivational to Boehner, and we have to hope that it is. And going back to my favorite part of Felicia's article was when she talked about getting the horse to go where you want him to go and to do what you want him to do. Sometimes you hit him with a switch, but then sometimes you whisper in his ear, and you always give him good food and carrots, and you take care of him, and you take care of his shoes. And so you provide the care and feeding of your horse. You sometimes treat him nicely. You sometimes give him the switch, but you and I, most of us know, crap, hold on, phone's ringing.
The thing about that switch, though, is you have to be very, very careful with it because PETA and not a good situation when.
I do wonder if PETA would complain at Boehner being horsewhipped.
Probably not.
Just had to throw it out there.
That's a good point. I don't think PETA would be too upset. I'm pretty sure that the ACLU would be behind it, would be fine with it. Clearly, it's free speech. Clearly, it's and that's something that you could probably get some bipartisan support for that. You could probably see some real bipartisan support for beating Boehner with a switch, but I've the thing with this Boehner situation, I actually was in a bunch of threads today on Facebook, on Twitter, all over the place, paying attention to this and what people are saying, and it is amazing how deflated and defeated people have gotten. I mean, it's as if it's a binary thing. If we don't get everything that we want, then we lost. And people are like, seriously, this is the end. The end is here because Boehner got reelected. The world is going to slowly degrade into liberalism because Boehner got reelected. I don't buy that. I don't think that that anyone should buy that, because we're going to fight. We're going to be we're in a position here where in 2016 we have a presidential election. We're going to have a president who's vetoing good legislation, bipartisan supported legislation the next year. I don't understand why we're getting so defeated.
I would say right now that we're missing the big point. Is Obama says, send me some bills that we can agree on. So they sat there and said something about why am I muted?
I don't know. You can speak.
Oh, okay. It was muted. I didn't know. Anyway.
You were speaking. We heard you.
Okay. And today he comes out with his Josh Earnest of all names sit there and said that he's going to veto the Keystone, whether anybody likes it or not. He's going to veto that. He's going to veto the 40-hour work week, changing his health care plan. If anybody tries to change it from 30 hours to 40 hours. So the first thing they were going to do was the Keystone. And this is where the real fight's at, but everybody's been bypassing it because of the little skirmish that we had today. Now, I don't like Boehner. I tried to give Boehner a chance, during the lame duck, because I don't think anybody should have voted for the crap they voted for during the lame duck. I mean, basically it's like, haha, we won. Now we're going to give you everything you want, and next 2 years we'll try to get what we want. It was stupid. And if you look at it from 2 years ago before that, when the Tea Party took over, we gave them everything again. And I don't understand it. That's what made me mad, but I got mad with my own Representative Holding from North Carolina. I was so pissed off at him. He sit there and turn around 7 hours before he decided to vote for a $1 trillion package, which he said he'd never vote for. He got a co-chairmanship. Imagine that, to India for doing stuff on business stuff with India. And I'm like, you asshole, because you're sitting here turning around and horse trading. So I told him, I said, look, excuse my language, I said, you're a piece of shit, and I'm never going to vote for you again. I said, we will find somebody to primary you. Now, is that too much for me to say? I said it to him. I can't change what Boehner does. If you want to change what Boehner does, don't send stuff to his office. Don't make phone calls to his office. That doesn't work. Send it to the 8th District if you want to protest him. Try to find somebody with money, somebody who's got a reputation that could do something. Because what you're asking the 8th District to do is take away all their power. If John Boehner doesn't have, speakership, I mean, he feeds his own people big time. He's the head cheese. They don't want to get rid of him. You got to have a good reason to get rid of him.
Absolutely.
And I would say the other part of it is Boehner going to play nice? No, Boehner doesn't care about dissension. He openly wants to destroy the Tea Party. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Today, what did he do? Everybody who voted against him, he stripped them of their chairmanships. Everybody. He doesn't care because he thinks he's got the votes now, but he doesn't understand how quick people can turn on him. One other thing I would say, I believe we have I believe we have a mandate. Most people say that we don't have a mandate, that our mandate is just to get along. I haven't heard that from anybody except from the press. And the main reason I say this is because we took over everything in the United States. And I'm talking about everything in historical numbers. And what that told me is that everything you're doing, everything the Democrats are doing is horrible. It's so bad, and we hate you so much, we're going to vote for people we never voted for before. We're going to let them try it. And people are saying, well, that's not a mandate. They just want you to get along with Obama. If they wanted people to get along with Obama, they just would have voted for a bunch of Democrats. But they never did that. They went the other direction. And it's really basically it. I mean, I think the one thing that maybe Republicans, excuse me, is when our party fights or we have debates, we're fighting, we're infighting, we're not getting along, we're not blah, blah, blah. When the Democratic Party does it, they're having vigorous debates and everything else. And a lot of that is the press stoking that up. They're the ones really trying to, put a spin on how we, how we fight. So if we kept our fights private, I wish there was a big Facebook room where everybody can go in there and scream and bitch and then come out smiling. Put on that fake little smile like,
Except people aren't really putting on that smile, and that's kind of the problem. Andy, I would love to hear what you have to say.
Okay, you're going to get angry at me, because you always get angry at me when I say this. I have an article coming out.
Oh, my God.
JD has literally at times shot me literally through the screen. I have wounds, and I didn't know you had a gun, and certainly not one that.
Well, it's like he's your paid shill. I mean, he asks you a question to which your answer is conveniently. I have an article about that coming out.
I do. My article.
We do have advertising on this show, and it's you two.
My article, well, because it goes to what Stephen was saying earlier, okay, the vetoes that are coming out. My article coming out tomorrow is called The Joy of Vitos. And what it's going to be about is and it's already written, it's ready to go. Sorry about this, guys. But I'm going to be saying, guys, don't run away from the fact that Obama's going to do vetoes. Embrace it. Because every veto he puts out is going to reveal his controlling mandate. I mean, his controlling agenda. See, he hasn't had to do that. He's been protected by Harry Reid. He said it himself. But now he's going to have to reveal with every single veto how controlling he is. So we put something out that says Keystone Pipeline. Once again, don't do this too quickly. I don't want Boehner and company to move too quickly. Do it slow to where the American people can digest every piece as we go. But put out the Keystone Pipeline, it gets vetoed. He looks controlling. People want that. Something to secure the border, he vetoes it. He looks controlling. People want that. All kinds of stuff on Obamacare. Repeal the punishment for not buying insurance and so forth. Every single thing that we repeal on that, piece by piece, we're going to look great. You don't want to repeal all of Obamacare at once. That's not painful enough. I want to do it piece by piece. I want them to feel it. But every single one of these vetoes is going to be setting us up beautifully for 2016. Use the vetoes. Pursue the vetoes. Embrace the vetoes. So often, Democrats and liberals get away with not showing their controlling hand, not showing how they embrace control. They want to tell everybody how many bullets they can carry, how much soda they can drink. They want to control where other people's kids are educated and how. I mean, think about that. They want to control everything, and we don't out them for it. Here we have a perfect opportunity. Use it again and again and again. Enjoy the vetoes.
And in the meantime, we use the language of common sense. We drive people to say, why would he veto that? We build that on the ground they build that in Congress, where's the president going to go?
Really, I mean, this is a huge point, and I made it several times today in a bunch of different threads, pushing the fact that the Democrats are going to be the new party of no. I mean, the President Obama is going to be the president of no. President Obama is going to be the president of no, because we're going to pass stuff, and it's going to go to his desk, and he's not going to deal with it. He's going to table it. He's going to veto it, and that's a big deal. That's something that people hear about. That's something that the press loves to talk about. Even the Democrat press loves to talk about, because when you've got a bipartisan piece of legislation, which we will be getting, because these guys, the Democrats don't have very many seats anymore in the House, and certainly they're looking to hold on to seats in 2016 in the Senate. They are going to have to vote for some of these bills, particularly on Keystone, and things that are common sense measures, as you said, when it comes to Obamacare, repealing the medical device tax. These things are going to cost Democrats in the election if they don't vote for them. So what we have is a scenario where it behooves us to see the president veto all of these bills. I've talked to this in threads. People, for whatever reason, want to put a brick wall up and say no because Boehner is here, and because we aren't getting everything repealed at once, because we aren't, passing everything with extreme vengeance, because we aren't impeaching Obama today, because Boehner did not, as the first act of Congress, the first act as Speaker, put up the thing for impeachment. It's somehow a cause for us to primary 200 members of Congress.
All at the same time.
All at the same time, yes, yeah. At the same time.
Nationwide, right? Well, and I just think it's so funny because, we used to, in 2012, we saw all of these no Obama signs all over, and I think if Obama's having to say no, and if he's vetoing all the time, then I think no Obama is going to take on a whole new meaning. And if the Democrats are wanting to protect their seats, they're going to have to choose. Are they either going to choose to support a president who is constantly promoting unpopular ideas and give up their seats? Or are they going to start to turn on the president, and are they going to start to listen to some of their constituents and start to vote along with the Republicans on some of these issues, like Keystone, like dismantling Obamacare, and actually help us out?
Yeah, actually, keep in mind, it hasn't just been Obama who's been protected by Harry Reid. It's been the other guys in Congress. They didn't have to vote on these things. I believe Keystone's going to fly. I think that we're going to override him.
Yeah, I think it should be an interesting exercise going forward. But hey, I'm a rhino probably because I am not entirely miffed about John Boehner being. That's not even true. I would prefer. We've said this a billion times already on this show, and I've said it a billion times today. Boehner is not the guy that I want. He's not my first choice, and I'm okay with him being speaker because we needed a speaker, and he was the guy who won. So, yeah. I mean, what other options do we have? Is there something that I don't know? Is there a secret, double secret probationary way to remove John Boehner because he's orange? I don't know.
And he's not that orange. I do think we need to be prepared that the media is not going to all of a sudden change their minds. For the last 6 years, conservatives, even though all we've had is the House of Representatives, we've been the obstructionists because we've been passing all of these bills out of the House that are completely unacceptable, forcing Harry Reid to not even bring them up because we are so crazy and obstructionist and just, we're the radical conservatives. Wrap your head around that, but we are radical conservatives because of whatever. That's what the media says. Well, now they don't have Harry Reid to hide behind, and so the House is going to pass the legislation. The Senate is going to pass the legislation. we're probably going to get more Democrat votes than anybody expects on some of these things. And Obama, well, poor blessed Obama, he's going to be forced to veto this crazy cake stuff that these radical conservative nut bars are passing. I mean, it used to be bad when, but at least Harry Reid could stop it. Now, my gosh, it's horrible. The entire legislative branch has gone insane, and all we have saving us is Obama and his veto pen. That's the way the media is going to be about it. So
Absolutely.
we have to be prepared. We have to be prepared with our counter message of common sense and explaining that Obama is being obstructionist because he is preventing us from doing the common sense things that allow the people of America to be in charge of their own lives and to have choice over what they do, and Obama just wants to control everything. So we're going to have to keep fighting. We just have to change our messaging a bit.
And I've got to say this. Andy's said it tonight even. We don't own the media or academia or all these other transmission message forms. We're not in Hollywood. The only way those messages of this is common sense legislation and the president's vetoing it, the only way that narrative gets out is through us. Because are you going to depend on the leadership of Congress to sell that, given their track record? Do you think they are equipped to sell that?
They can't sell coats to Eskimos.
Thank you. So it's on us. Anybody who thinks that whatever's going on in Washington is the only thing that matters, you have got to be kidding me. You have a duty. Every one of us who is on the right, who's in the rightward end of the spectrum, has a duty to go out and sell these ideas. If you believe in them, if you want them done, you create the popular support for it. You go out and you message these things in terms of common sense. Why wouldn't you want to sell insurance across state lines where there'd be more competition? It's just common sense. How much more do you need to say? And then you build that on the ground, and the support will get those things done. Because the media's not going to do it. Colleges are not going to do it. It's got to be us.
Well, and I think it's even worse than that because, a caged animal is dangerous, and an animal that is backed into a corner is very dangerous, more dangerous than if they're, floating free. The media and academia and, education and entertainment have been for years floating free and nicely pushing their liberal message. We're catching them out. We're calling them out. We're trapping them. We're encircling them, and we are proving what they're doing. So they're feeling very vulnerable, which means they're going to be far more vicious and more dangerous than they've ever been. This is the left political, media, entertainment, education. They're going to be far more vicious, and we have to be prepared for that.
Well, and there's two other reasons. First of all, the beauty of these things that we're pushing is these are all issues that poll very well for us. Okay, the polls are way in our favor on Obamacare, every aspect after aspect.
And that's why the media is scared. They know they're wrong.
They're terrified. Securing the border, E-Verify, things in dealing with immigration. The polls are well in our favor. Gun rights, the polls are well in our favor. And we need to take advantage of where the polling is. That way we don't have to worry about how we're going to get crushed right away. I think the media is going to have a much harder time doing this. And here's the other reason that they are desperate. I've mentioned this before. They're desperate because of 2018. In 2018, there are 7, I count them 7, highly vulnerable Democrat Senate seats and only 1 vulnerable Republican Senate seat. They are already down for, they need 2016 in the worst way. They don't just need to win in 2016. They've got to win big. They're desperate. And right now, they're desperate at a time when they are polling poorly. Their president has just been put in the position of having to issue all kinds of vetoes that are going to hurt his party even worse going into the 2016 elections. Guys, we got them on the ropes. Quit dividing and beating each other up. Start dancing in the end zone, start spiking the ball, start enjoying yourselves because you're about to pound them into tomorrow. I'm an ex-Democrat. I come from that side. I know how terrified they are of you. Why? Oh, why? Are we attacking each other? I'm not saying that we shouldn't be disappointed at times. We should. Because I look at the leadership in Congress and I say, come on, guys, now's the time to show some stones. We've got them. Don't be arrogant. Don't be obnoxious. Be nice. Do it nicely and make it hurt even more. Okay? But do it. Guys, quit attacking each other, because if they do not steamroll us in 2016, they're in terrible shape. Enjoy it.
I know a lot of people who were talking about how moderate George Bush was. And technically speaking, he might have been a little bit moderate. But compared to Barack Obama, he was very conservative. I'll give you an example. I was reading up on George Bush. He had 50,000 pages of regulations in 8 years. And I know right now you're going, 50,000 pages? Oh my God. Obama, just this year alone, already for 2015, has 75,000 pages of new regulations. 75,000.
And that's just
in 1 year. That's just 1 year. I mean, it's insane. The main reason I bring this stuff up is because you have a choice. Sometimes it sucks, but sometimes you have to take something that sucks less. I know that sounds bad, but I mean, it's just the way it is, and you can't take other people and expect, like, I like Rand Paul personally. I like what he's trying to do in some moderation in some areas, and I don't like some of the other stuff he's doing. But if he runs for president next year, in the next 2 years, I don't think he'll win, because there's so much of a swing to being a conservative, being really conservative from somebody who's so liberal that it's literally like dropping independence in ice water. It'll shock them to death. They won't understand it. They'll think the whole thing it'll be cutting them apart. And that's just the way I see things. And the other thing I was going to say, y'all were talking about the public, the media, things like that. If you want to find out what the media is going to talk about this week, just watch Morning Joe on MSNBC at 6 to 9 on Monday, and you'll find every talking point that you want that's coming out of the president's office. And there's just no doubt about that. I watch it all the time. I see what they're doing. Speaking of a hoodie, it was mentioned on MSNBC this morning as being a real story. So it has legs.
What, you mean the Oklahoma hoodie story?
Yeah,
wow.
It was on MSNBC as a story this morning.
Amazing. And a couple of things. Stefan, I hope you come back next week, because what I really want to get into next week is the regulatory burden of things. There have been a couple of articles that I've bookmarked from this week, and we can talk about and maybe prep for that for next week, because the war against regulations, I think, is a war that we can win, and that we can bring a lot of people over to our side on. There's so much around that, and if we can get our messaging right, I think we can win that battle. And I really want to hit that next week. But yeah, you can see that JD and Ryan put on their hoodies. One of the things that this actually goes to some of the unity, fight for your team kind of conversation that we've been having, that we're getting to after the shock of the whole, quote, shock of Boehner still being our speaker. But we've got to come together and be unified in this and be a single team, and that means that we have to use choose our battles, like we said last week as one of our resolutions, but we have to fight wisely. And our first instinct so frequently is to cover our own butts and throw people on our side under the bus if it means that we can preserve that image of of being moderate, because moderates are more rational, and we don't want to be seen as being conservatives who always defend our own side. So we tend to be a little bit too eager to believe the accusations against our own team or against conservatives, and we tend to be a little bit too credulous of sources that don't deserve our credulity. Huffington Post threw out a story earlier this week about a law being considered in Oklahoma that would make it illegal to wear a hoodie. And the headlines were all about how, is Oklahoma going to outlaw hoodies? And it went crazy. And people on our side, and I'm not talking about crazy people on our side getting all angry about how Oklahoma is insane. I'm talking about generally rational people, or our respected sources, agreeing with this story and talking about immediately throwing Oklahoma under the bus as a conservative state, passing a crazy law, making it illegal to wear a hoodie because, oh my gosh, Oklahoma is crazy conservatives and probably also racist. And this story was pushed by Reason Magazine, by Hot Air, Fox News. I saw it on Fox News yesterday. And the actual law, the only mention of the word hoods in the law was when the law was written at the turn of the century, or in the 1920s, and it was specifically denying people, the KKK, the opportunity to wear hoods in the commission of a crime as a way to disguise themselves. So it made it a crime to disguise your face with a hood or some other type of covering as a way to, it made it an enhancement to the punishment for a crime. And the change that the Oklahoma lawmaker was putting into the law was something just to clarify that, not only is it a hood, but any type of clothing device that you have, a mask or any kind of other covering that disguises your face in the commission of a crime, makes it like a super crime. That's all it was. It was not, oh my gosh, this is a response to Trayvon Martin and we're going to make hoodies illegal. That's not even close to what it was. And in fact, the mention of the word hood was because of the KKK.
So what you're saying is that this wasn't, not only was it not a racist law, it's
an enhancement to protect victims of crime.
It was a law that was put into place to stop a racist group?
Yes.
What?
And they're enhancing it now to protect victims of crime. But, shocker of shockers, the leftist media, caged animals back against the wall, getting vicious, they twisted it and they put a purposefully deceptive headline on it. And what's very disappointing is that our side ran with it. And it wasn't until I saw today Larry O'Connor calling BS on the whole story. Fortunately, my share of Larry's story calling BS on it got reshared almost as much in my circles of people as the original story. So this thing may get debunked fairly quickly, but this is an example of the kind of thing we are far too quick to believe the shocking, horrible things about our own side. And we need to take a page out of the Democrats' playbook. Yes, the Democrats are, bad, horrible, and evil, right? Right, yeah. But they have some tactics that are effective. And so we need to adapt some of their effective tactics to our own side in pursuit or in to help us achieve our goals, which our goals are good and noble because we're right. But their tactic of always defending their own guy until they're forced to cut him loose, we tend to cut our guy loose first and then we'll follow up later and defend him. We need to take a little bit of lesson from the Democrats, and our first reaction needs to be to defend our own people, and to defend our own state, to defend ourselves, and to support our team. And then if we have to, cut that guy loose from the team. But he's on our team. And when there's an accusation against our team, we need to defend our team.
Or
and
at
get
the
a little
very
bit better
least,
about that.
or at the very, very least, like, maybe possibly read the legislation, maybe?
That's crazy talk. Crazy!
We
I
haven't
didn't
done
even read the articles.
I know reading is very, very tough. It's difficult. Sorry, Andy, what were you
Reading
saying?
is fundamental. That's what LeVar said.
I was raised in the public education system, which has freed us from reading legislation going forward, just so you know. But, I agree with that, Leslie. The only thing is that because I think we need to have our first instinct be to defend one another, and not, and because the Democrats do it, and we can't put ourselves at such a ridiculous disadvantage. But we have to keep in mind they own the big three: the media, academia, and entertainment. So we're going to be. It's not going to pay off as well for us to do it as it does for them. When they do it, they have absolute cover. When we do it, we have no cover. And I'm not saying, therefore, we shouldn't defend people. I'm saying we should. Okay, but I think we have to be much more careful. What do you think?
Sure, but what do we gain if by throwing people under the bus? Do we gain their friendship and their loyalty and their belief that we're reasonable people? We have nothing to gain by throwing our people under the bus.
My hope is that I can move up the ladder by doing so. Now, if I take more of them down, I've got a real future this way, and I've often felt that, just by cutting people down that I elevate myself. So if I actually take them down politically, look, I'm just rambling here. I'm not saying
you are truly an evil conservative bastard, aren't you?
My wife is.
Your conversion is complete. You're totally.
Why is my wife hurting me?
I was just going to say, the Party of Choice had a very brilliant, very short lifespan.
He's right. You guys don't have your Highlander swords?
I gain power every time.
Every time, yeah. It's great.
There can be only one.
There can be only one.
Well, hey, I mean,
Well,
I thought that this was widely known.
But I think it is important for everyone listening to understand that Andy Tate is the one white male oppressor of everyone when this is over.
Well, I have skills.
Why don't we ridicule them back? I mean, sarcasm's the best thing. I mean, you can sit there and say something like with the Hood story, as soon as JD and the other guy put on his hoods, me being a middle-aged white guy, the first thing I thought of is I need to shoot them. They're going to hurt me. But it didn't happen.
What are you waiting for? I'm telling you, I told you this is how you move up.
Yeah, and I'm
No. Andy, you forgot. It's not. You can't just wantonly shoot at people. It has to be a beheading with a sword. That's the only way it works. Man. Highlander rules.
What, you're bringing foreign policy into this?
I'm down for.
It's Highlander rules apply. That's what, yeah.
Off their head.
Oh, I see. I try wearing hoodies, but I wear them backwards and I can't drive. It's just
this from the guy that has the movie reviews, and he doesn't get that.
I get it.
Really. But actually, Stefan's point was really very good, that we need to be dismissive of these people, and as if anybody ever believes anything they say. Oh man, that is so twisted. We need to mock and be dismissive and derisive of the people who are not deserving of our respect. Al Sharpton and all of these people, when they say stupid stuff, we need to call them on it.
If I cut off arms, will it improve my reach?
'Tis but a scratch.
No, Andy. It's just the head. It's just the head, Andy. I mean, later when you send me the check for the article intros, we'll have a discussion. It's okay. Thank you.
I will say one other thing that maybe we need to all understand, and we may need to teach conservatives or right of center conservatives that are just independents. They need to understand that the progressive movement started in the 1900s. They just didn't win the media. They just didn't win all the newspapers. they built a foundation. This is over 100 years of work where they progressively they inched themselves over to the left, little by little by little. And now it looks like it's complete chaos, and nobody sees it for what it is.
Well, Steve, let me ask you.
They took over academia. What did they do? You're talking about the 60s. What did these guys do? They put on suits and became professors. My God. I mean, it's a brilliant move.
Let me ask you a question. How can we, because you're totally right, everything you just said was perfect. Here they do this, they work slowly, they laid the groundwork and all this. Then how come we on our side, the second we get some power, want instant results and demand it?
Because we believe we're right, and we're right to a fault. We can't stand half measures, because we think if we go halfway on something that we're not being true to ourselves. So we take it's almost like doing a half lie. It's like like I'm against abortion, but abortions where it would cost the life of the mother. I mean, they say the mother would die. I am in favor of that only because it would kill the mother. But there's so many people who are. I would trade that. Like when you try to tell a story, you know, they say we want, you know, I would trade that for I would make that law I would try to get there. I'm trying to say, if you want to get to point A to point B, you gotta get them from 20 or what is it?
You have to lay the groundwork.
You got them going to the fetus, so you incrementally get them back to saying, well, look, 24 weeks, look, this is a viable child. Okay. Once you get them to 24 weeks and they understand that this is a child, oh, look, they got brain function, heart function at 20 weeks, and their little bodies are completely developed. Then you try to get them to almost to the point of conception and implantation. That's going to be the hardest part. You don't jump from 9 months to implantation because they've already taken the left and they're way past that. So
and you're not
that
arguing...
would shock the system. So you have to go further. You have to do it incrementally. People do not like rapid change. It just scares the mess out of them.
You know, Stefan, you're right, because that is what we faced in 2009, and how the Tea Party got started is all the radical things they were starting. Flip that backwards, it still works the same way. People still react strongly to really quick change that's wild. That's why Andy's incremental plan on Obamacare is so beautiful. But also, when you're talking, say, about abortion, you're not trying to convert the leftists. They're already going to have that all abortion, all the time, on demand, whatever, free, even in some cases. I've seen those protests. But you're talking to the people in the audience, the people who don't think about this day in and day out. You're talking to the people who might just not have ever thought about those things. I read a story where a woman was flipping through some images of gestation stages on her computer, and her roommate came and looked over her shoulder. What are you looking at? And she just told her, this is for my class. It's the stages of gestation of a baby. And the woman was frozen for a moment, and she said, wow, that's a person. Even way back in early gestation. Leslie had another one. I want Leslie to talk about a social media share that she did on G Plus that was just beautiful about gestation.
Oh, that was pretty interesting, and it was even in I think it was even in a Mashable article. I saw it again this morning. Mashable had an article of GIFs that were examples of really awesome GIFs that were not cats, and this was one of them. And it shows a human being going from a single cell all the way through birth, and it's an animated spiral, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful, and it's a great example of how great GIFs can be to teach science. And it was shared by the head of G+, Dave Besbris, or however you pronounce his name. Most of what he shares is photographs that he's taken. He saw that GIF, thought it was awesome, and he shared it to his hundreds of thousands of followers. That's the way we change hearts and minds. Because you can't look at that thing and not see that it is, in fact, a human being from a single cell, a single fertilized cell all the way through. It was awesome.
And that's just so neat because it gets people thinking. I've had two instances, going along with what you're saying and with what Stefan is saying, with coworkers. A few years ago, we were talking about abortion. It just came up randomly. I don't even remember how. But I brought up partial birth abortion. And my coworker didn't know what it was, and I just briefly explained what it was. She was horrified. She's like,
she's heard that phrase, partial birth abortion, and it just goes right past you. You don't really think about it.
Had no idea what it was, and once she heard what it was, she was horrified that we would allow something like that to happen. It was a fantastic chance to start a conversation. Another coworker of mine, we were talking about the law that they tried to pass to, or maybe they did pass it, to provide medical help to babies that survived abortions. Again, horrified. Babies can survive an abortion? That really happens? And so by starting with those things that are just no-brainers to people, why wouldn't you want to help a baby? You can start that conversation and then work it backwards until you can get to the point of asking, well, when does it become a life?
You know, another thing I like to do is say, hey, before we even look at whether or not it's a human life or all this, I want you to look at your own motives and ask yourself this: do I believe that the unborn are not human lives because of evidence, or because it's convenient to believe that? Because it's going to be better for me. Why do you believe that they are not human lives, if you believe that? And I'm not saying this to judge you. I'm asking you to look. You decide for yourself. You look at your own motives, and you decide, is it because of evidence or convenience?
Yeah, and too often it's the convenience. So.
All right, so I have a quick answer to Stefan's question. He was talking about why people don't want to move fast, or why people want to move fast and they don't slow down. They don't realize it took 100 years. I think a lot of those type of people, they realize what's true. They realize how it should be, and they're like, okay, well, let's do that. Why can't we do that? And they don't have a good enough understanding of history to know that the progressives have built this over 100 years. They took over your schools and have been teaching false history and brainwashing kids for 100 years to get them to believe their Paul Krugman economics, for example. All you have to do is say, if you spend money, you'll run out of money, and everyone knows that's true, unless you've gone through 12 years of indoctrination telling you that's not true. And so just because they don't know the history, they're like, well, it's obvious, that's what we should do, let's do it. But they don't realize all that's gone into getting people to not pay attention to this kind of stuff, and getting people to not understand and not be able to do that simple math, and to get people to not connect those dots and do the thinking. I think there's to a little extent we need to kind of teach them the history, but also kind of walk them through step by step in a simple, easy way to get them to connect the dots, because they're not doing that on their own. And we talked about that last week. Fishy and I were pretty worked up on an article about having to follow all the guidelines and rules and not being able to think for yourself. And firefighters couldn't go across the street to help a man who was dying of a heart attack because they had to call 911 first, and the guy died waiting. And so I think we need to kind of take them step by step. Well, if this happens, then what would happen here? Okay, well, if that happened, what about this? So that's my thoughts.
Well, when we talk about regulation and all the things, the stupid things that worked us up last week, I'm going to transition us now into some humorous side of some of these regulations, the things that are coming down, the difficulties around Obamacare. This is a delicious little piece by Rich Lowry in National Review called "When Obamacare Came to Harvard." And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it because the Schadenfreude is so delicious. At one point, Harvard professors, all the people there who have been involved in some of the planning, some of that clerisy, we keep coming back to that article, who have been advising the Obamacare process, who've been helping the administration craft some of these things, talking and writing papers about how it should be done. They have been saying that Congress needs to provide health benefits to everybody in the nation at a reasonable cost. But those remedies, it says, will now be applied to the Harvard faculty, and the professors are in an uproar. In other words, they are getting the change they believed in. Good and hard. And Rich Lowry adds this, which he does not source from Twitter. Someone on Twitter said, karma is a pre-existing condition. I just love that.
Good old sweet payback, and it's amazing. Like, these guys have some nerve to be upset. It's amazing, the left, at how they react to this stuff. They should have known.
Well, isn't their main complaint that Harvard is wealthy enough and Harvard should just pick up the extra cost and shouldn't be passing it along to the professors? Isn't that mainly what they're saying?
How much are those professors making again?
Yeah, way
how much are they
more
making
than
again?
me.
They make they average in excess of $200 a year.
What? What?
They
Really?
average in excess of $200,000 a year. That's what I saw today anyway.
You don't expect us to live and work in that area with those costs of living and make less than that, do you?
That's what I was thinking. In a liberal city like Boston, 200,000 is like minimum wage in Texas.
Barely a living wage.
Yeah, you can't get an apartment for that.
And this penalty or extra fee that they'll pay amounts to about $250 a year.
Isn't that crazy? Their deductible is going to be something like $1,000. They're going to pay like $250 over the whole year for their policy, and they're complaining.
Nice.
There's this great joke in the article. How many Harvard professors does it take to figure out that free government benefits aren't actually free? And the answer is as many Harvard professors as are forced to pay the indirect costs of those benefits.
You know, does this go to the heart of our saying with the party of choice? I want to control my own life, not yours. That's what it means to be a conservative. I want to control other people's lives. That is the heart of being a liberal. That's why I left liberalism. I left liberalism because of everything these Harvard professors just showed themselves to be. And I'll never miss it. I'll never miss it for a day.
What we should do, I'm pretty sure what we should do, Fishy, is we need to send out some feelers, message these guys, and see if we can hook them up with an insurance story video. We should do that with them, detailing the hardship that now they don't have that extra $250 to spend on chasing after college co-eds.
JD, you totally should do that because I bet one of them would take you up on it.
Oh, you are absolutely right because they are whiny complainers
they're
that
so
complain.
entitled. It would you should totally try.
Well, I mean, my gosh, they're gonna have to get their next scarf on sale. They're gonna have to wait for a sale to buy something.
It's going to take them extra long to buy those extra Farmville points. It's going to take a long time now for them to reach the next level of Candy Crunch. These are real problems.
Hey, don't knock Candy Crunch.
Wait. They are going to have to sew their own patches on the elbows of their jackets.
Jeez.
That's just wrong on so many levels.
You don't want to see a college professor do that. I mean, these are really hardworking individuals that, you know, spend days a week, like a couple days a week, actually doing their job. So, I mean, $250 is just too much. We should have done more.
Well, that's the hilarious thing is that these guys, the second they get much tenure, they don't even hardly work. You're so right, JD. They have underlings do the grading of papers and do half or most of their work. There are teachers here in Colorado at like CU. It's rumored that they literally, and they'll be pulling down big checks. They literally work maybe 10% of their work week. And the rest of their time, they'll like say, I'm working on a dissertation or some, some such nonsense. I could say, I'm actually, I tell my wife, honey, I was pretty busy today. I was drilling at the South Pole for a new oil find or something. I mean, they can claim they're doing anything, and it counts. And these Harvard profs, they are so liberal. They want to redistribute everything that they don't make or don't. They create absolutely nothing. They create nothing. They put out people who create nothing. They put out a president who creates nothing and has done nothing his entire life but redistribute the efforts of others. And now, momentarily, he redistributed their non-efforts, and they can't handle it.
It's funny to me to hear that they're complaining over their premiums going up or their deductibles going up by $250 or something like that. My deductible's going up by $2,000 or $3,000, and I make probably less than a quarter of what these professors make, if not more. So I don't feel bad for them at all.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
we
that
should
was
take
one
up
of
a collection.
Yeah, really. We could do a GoFundMe for Ryan. But one of the...
No, I meant for Harvard.
Oh, no. Just say no. Not going to happen.
No, I like Leslie's idea a lot better.
I knew you would. I knew I'd get some support from the gallery there on at least one of you. But one of the things that I saw as a pushback against the conservative laughter about Harvard is, the left thinks that they have caught us in hypocrisy because don't we think it's bad for premiums to go up? Why are we all overjoyed that Harvard's premiums are going up? Conservatives are so hypocritical. Wait just a second, guys. That's not the deal at all. Our belief is that without Obamacare, without a command and control aspect on the healthcare part of the economy, the solutions that we have would have provided far more choice and opportunity for people to have the coverage that they want. It would have actually bent the cost curve down, and things would be very different. We don't want the things that Harvard is seeing. We don't want everybody's rates going up and then everyone having to pay more for less service. We're not happy about that. What we are happy about is that these Harvard professors are getting hoisted on their own petard. That's what we're happy about. We're not happy.
Who sold it to us?
Right.
We
want them to have to eat their own dog food because we're having to eat the dog food. And I'm happy that they're having to eat it too, finally.
I don't want my premium to go up and my deductible to go up. That's what happened. I want my premium to be really, really low. Go from, say, $500 or $600 a month to $20 a month. Then sure, I'll take the $10,000 deductible or $15,000 because I don't use it. But when I have to pay $550 to $600, $700 a month and then have the huge deductible, I can't afford the deductible when it comes. If I could have a really low premium, I'd be fine with it. And I would love to be able to choose that plan, but it's not an option anymore.
Yeah, I would say it's horrible. Absolutely. I see, well, Harvard's not going to be hurting. They were talking about it this morning on TV. They got a $36 billion endowment for that school. I'm pretty sure they'll whine enough and that the school will take care of it. It's just funny that they have to bitch and whine about something. as far as $250. What is it? Is that a bottle of wine they're not going to have for Christmas next year? I doubt it.
That's a half a bottle of wine. I think it's that the elites of society, the clerisy class, they execute their control ideas over the rest of society, and they believe that they will always and forever be immune because they should be, because they're better than us. And the rules that they're making and the changes that they're making are for us because they're taking care of us. They feel sorry for us because we're stupid and we need their help and we need their care. And they're not ever supposed to have to suffer from or deal with the ramifications of what they're doing.
Yeah, it's always real fun to play with the rats in the cage until you have to be in the cage. You know, you experiment on the rest of us, and tell us that you tell us that we shouldn't be motivated. It shouldn't matter to us that we have to pay more because it'll help somebody else who didn't earn it. And you think it's okay. We're supposed to delight in having our money stolen from us because that's all Obamacare is. All it is redistribution of wealth through health care. That's all it is, to pay off voters for politicians. Okay? And you guys want to tell us that's all okay if it happens to us. And we're going to manage society. And society is nothing but our chessboard. And you're all little chess pieces. And now, for just a moment, for just a heartbeat, they become pawns themselves. While working virtually never, producing nothing, and teaching other people how to produce nothing. They become pawns themselves for just a moment and can't handle it. My gosh, can you imagine if these guys had to spend one day in Iraq with the troops? My goodness.
They are elitists. That is the left. That's who they are. They look down on everyone else because everyone else is less than them. That's how they think. And
Yankees.
Whoa. Take that back.
Nope. Not gonna do it.
Wow. This is annoying. There might be a civil war within FRN because of this. It's just not. It's North versus South, and it's not going to end well. So
yeah, we're gonna win this one, pal. Yeah.
I don't think so, man. I don't think so.
If I'm not taking sides, what does that make me? France or Switzerland?
Switzerland.
Well, Switzerland is your generic.
Yeah.
If you were going to be France, you would be surrendering.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Should be Paris.
No,
Treaty of Versailles.
France. Don't you give 18th century France that reputation? That came much later. France was kick butt in our Revolutionary War in places, and we had some major contributions from the French. Don't do that. I'm not
Well, touchy. What are you, French?
You know, I think I am in part. Neither here nor there.
Look, they didn't do any of the fighting. They did the catering for the war. It doesn't count.
You're all rhinos is what we're really getting down to. That's the bottom line here. Stefan, you're a rhino. Stefan, that is the case. You are a rhino. Leslie, you're a rhino. Fishy, you're a rhino. Andy, you're a rhino. Ryan, you're a rhino. Cori,
Ryan's
you're
a
not
rhino.
I am actually.
Ryan's a rhino. Ha 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 ha. Get it?
Cori's not a rhino because I'm kind of scared of Cori.
Cori is a Rhinoceros Rex.
And I'm a rhino corn.
Right, but that's well known. It's common knowledge.
Well, and to like get this train back on the tracks here, I did want to tell people who were expecting a 2-hour show, we've shortened it a bit so that people can get to bed at decent times and do the jobs that the Harvard professors won't do, which is contribute to the national economy, make things, do things productive. So we, because of the Boehner situation, decided to cut short the show a little bit, but also to take out a couple of the segments we were going to talk about. We were going to do our left tactics segments, and we'll have that back next week, very likely. And we were going to introduce our What Do You Say segment, and we will probably get to that kicked off next week as well. I know that next week we are going to be talking about some left hypocrisy in our segment over left tactics, so people are not going to want to miss that.
Cool.
Absolutely. And I think with that, we're going to wrap it up. Any objections? You're all muted, so it's not like y'all have a vote anyway. This is a dictatorship. Oh, was I supposed to admit that publicly on air?
As a parliamentarian, I can criticize your procedure, but I don't know that it would do any good if I'm muted, right?
Oh, parliamentarian, schmarlamentarian.
Primary all the things.
Oh, God, they're going to primary me next time. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for listening in this week, and everybody who is going to be listening on Vigilant Liberty Radio or on our podcasts via iTunes, Stitcher, or TuneIn. Stay tuned throughout the week for our clips on YouTube that Felicia and JD do. If you want to just see, the little 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there, and that'll be shared out on Google+, which is the social network where I am. So all the cool people are on Google+. And everybody is on Google+, but some of y'all are also over on that Twitter thing and the Facebook name thing. Facebook and Twitter. Yes, I'm silly. But check us out at therefineryshow.com. There's links to everything there. And we will see you next Tuesday at 8:30, 8:45, whichever way it works. I like to try for 8:30, but it ends up being 8:45 before we go live. So we'll negotiate and figure that out. And anybody else have anything else to say? Thank you so much for joining us this week, Stefan, and we hope to see you next week as well. And we can talk about whatever we're going to talk about next week.
Sure, that sounds good. I could do that.
All right.
Thanks to Marla for being in chat. It was great to finally have her there.
Hi, Marla. How are you?
Yay. Yes, thanks, Surat, and Prue and Titan and
PD.
PD, all of our lovely regulars who come and needle us and give us great input. And yes, Marla, it's so good to see you in chat once at your schedule. You must be having insomnia or something, woman.
There's a chat.
Yes. Okay, Stefan, stay online. We'll walk you through it afterwards.
I know there's a chat, but it always tries to get me to download malicious software.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, we're going to go ahead and sign off the broadcast for now and talk amongst ourselves and fight over technology. Thank you, guys. See y'all next week.